Welcome back to 2KOA. Hello. I'm Paige. This is my sister Peyton.
Hi.
We used to be 2,000 miles away from each other, and now we're in the same place. So take two wasn't any better, but that's okay. So last week we talked about, Peyton talked about sleep paralysis. That was pretty cool. Thank you, Nick, for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
Even though he's probably not going to listen to this because he's a chicken shit.
He is. So he won't listen to the true crime ones.
No, probably not. That's okay.
Anything that's scary, he don't like. So
that's all right.
Yeah.
I guess we'll let it slide, maybe. So, and this week, I haven't told Peyton yet what it is, so I'm real excited, because I don't think she's going to know what it is, because I didn't know what this is. But, since my last one was solved, I had to do another unsolved one. So here we are.
Go figure.
So today...
Paige is back on her bullshit.
Yes, I am. And I'm going to be talking about the 8-Day Bride. Have you heard of that?
It sounds familiar.
She is from Canada.
Okay.
So I'd never heard of this before. And there really isn't much to go off of online either, to be honest. I was searching, but not a whole lot. Not much a whole lot to go off of. So I just happened to search for unsolved cases, and this one popped up. So it is about the death of 21-year-old Christina Ketterwell and the strange circumstances surrounding it. I even tried to look for documentaries or any videos. There's a couple of them on YouTube, and I watched the BuzzFeed Unsolved one, which I love those two. Those two are hilarious.
They do a great job as well.
They really do.
Mm-hmm. And shout out to those guys whose name I don't know.
Ryan, and I only remember Ryan because Ryan, obviously. And I don't remember the other one. Anyway, they're cool.
I'm shit with names.
Theirs is really cool if you want to go watch that. So there's nothing really else on there. Pretty much everything that they say in that is what is out there. So we're gonna start. Christina Mocon. I don't know. Mocon. She was born on August 7th, 1925 in Ontario and spent most of her life in Mimico. So there's literally nothing known about her early life. Oh. I don't even think there's a Wikipedia page on this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But she at least had one sister named Helen. Her father was a Polish immigrant, and her family was of the Roman Catholic faith. So that's pretty much everything we know about her early life.
Well, I mean, that was kind of the issue that I had with Mary Piercy. Because, I mean, I'm sure there was more in that book that I mentioned, but I didn't even get a chance to read it, unfortunately. So
yeah. So she was working at a bank where her coworkers said she was a nice woman and a good worker. Again, pretty much all we knew about that. So she had met and fallen in love with a 26-year-old war veteran named Ron. No, his name wasn't Ron. I'm sorry. His name was John Ray Ketterwell.
Okay.
Yes. So who everyone called Jack. So that's how I'm going to be referring to him from here on out, is Jack. Okay. So she had apparently known him for about 3 years or so. So she must have been 18-ish when they first met. When they started dating, though, her family did not approve. They started talking about marriage.
Wait, was she 18 and he was 26?
She was 18. He would have been 23.
Okay.
So, but they didn't start dating. They didn't start dating when they first met. They started dating closer to when she was 21.
Yeah.
So, but either way, her family did not approve. When they started talking marriage, they were really not happy about that. And her father gave the excuse was why he didn't approve, because he wasn't a Roman Catholic. And I guess he did convert to Roman Catholicism.
And to appease the father?
To appease the father, and father's still like, no. Still no. I think that was just an excuse.
Yeah.
Because what they really didn't like was they didn't like how much time Jack's best friend spent with the couple. And his name was Ronald Barry.
So there is a Ronald.
There is a Ronald, yes.
Okay.
Ronald Barry was a 28-year-old Italian immigrant who was a professional ballroom dancer.
Oh, how fun.
I know. When he first immigrated to Canada, he tried to get into construction and insurance, not together, separately.
Okay.
But failed at both.
Oh.
So I don't know what he was trying to do there, but I don't know why those two, if he was a professional ballroom dancer. Of all things, construction and insurance. Yeah. Either way, he tried, he failed.
Okay.
So instead, he just spent a shit ton of time with Jack and Christina.
Okay.
This is one of the things that troubled Christina's family because they thought that maybe Ronald was in love with Christina. So they're like, this is all weird and we don't like it, so we don't want you marrying him. So since the couple didn't get the blessing of Christina's family, I know it's already starting weird, right? They decided to elope. So on May 12th, 1947, they did just that, and they went off and got married.
Okay.
They rented an apartment or house, I couldn't tell either way, in Toronto for the beginning of the honeymoon for the next few days, right after they got married. And Ronald stayed with them for their honeymoon in this apartment. Then on the 17th, they all went to a remote cottage in Severn Falls that Ronald owned that was only accessible by boat. Ronald joined them.
For their honeymoon.
Now, here's the thing. If you're all three in a relationship?
Like, here's the thing. If you guys are in a polyamorous relationship, that's one thing.
And all consenting? Fantastic.
Exactly.
Good for
all
you.
Consenting adults, totally fine. If you want to have 2 to 7 people in your relationship, that's fine. 8 is too many, but I mean, that's fine, but it's just the fact that I now know what has happened to her that's making this weird.
Correct.
Correct.
So obviously way back then, again, if this was the case, great, but way back then it was all like, oh, no.
Yeah, but, of course.
Okay. But you know what happens at the end.
Yeah.
You know that there's a death at the end.
Anything slightly out of, like, heteronormativity was very much like, gasp! That's of the devil, or something. You know, it's... Right. It is what it is.
However, this all ends in a death.
Yeah, so that's what's making all this weird.
Yep.
Not that they may all have been a couple.
Correct. So, like I said, they go to this cottage that's owned by Ronald. You can only access it by boat. And then by the 20th, because again, they went there on the 17th. Mm-hmm. By the 20th, Christina was found dead and the cottage was burned to the ground.
Okay.
So, it gets weird.
It's already been a little weird.
Mm-hmm. According to Ronald, he had gone out to sunbathe that morning. When he got back to the cottage, Christina was nowhere to be found, and he noticed that the cottage was on fire. He went in to find Jack dazed with a head injury and blood all over his head. He got Jack out of the cottage. He did go and get something else, but we'll talk about that later, Peyton. He got Jack out of the cottage, took a boat to get to a car to drive Jack to the hospital. Then he called the police. Great, we're doing good so far. You get your friend to the hospital. Well, it's not like he has a cell phone that he can call somebody on the way to the hospital.
That's all fine and dandy, but my house is burning. I'm going to go inside.
Well, he needs to see if his friends are in there. Christina's nowhere to be found. So, calls the police. It took only an hour for the cottage to completely burn to the ground.
It's quick.
Yep. So
an accelerant was used.
Well, I guess we'll just have to see.
Okay.
So it wasn't until 10 p.m. Now, and this is earlier in the day. This is like early afternoon, I think. Mm-hmm. because he went out to sunbathe like in the morning. He'll later say that they all had breakfast together and then he went out to sunbathe. So this was morning-ish. It wasn't until 10 p.m. when a local person, he owned a boathouse in the area, found Christina's body in her floral pajamas, barefoot, and face down in 9 inches of water, only 150 feet from the cottage.
Oh.
Yeah. So an autopsy showed that she didn't have any burns, nor any signs of violence. So she had no, like, defensive marks. She had no ligature marks. It was just like she died right there, face down. Nothing on her. So clearly she was not in the burning house or a cottage. They also found that she had trace amounts of codeine in her stomach, but her ultimate cause of death was drowning. But those are the only 2 things that they found. A little bit of codeine, and she had drowned. But she was only in 9 inches of water. Yes, you can still drown in that.
You can.
Maybe if somebody's holding you there. But then again...
Or if you're passed out.
You also could drown in 9 inches of water. Yep. So Jack, Ronald, and 20 other men were questioned about her death. Jack was treated for burns, shock, a head injury, and an apparent drugging at the hospital. He had something in his system.
I love the word apparent drugging.
Yeah. Well, because he doesn't have any recollection about what happened after 11 o'clock that morning.
Oh.
Yeah. So once he was released, he was questioned for 3 hours total. And again, he doesn't remember anything after 11 a.m. that day. Ronald was questioned for 13 hours and provided a 3,000-word statement that police said was, quote, fantastic.
Is this fantastic in the sarcastic sense?
I don't know. No idea.
Okay.
Couldn't answer that.
Fantastic.
Was fantastic. Oh. And that was mentioned in a couple different sources that I found.
Okay.
Yep. So a month later, an inquest with a jury began as to whether Christina's death was an accident or if foul play was involved. Because obviously they know how she died. They just need to figure out the manner in which she died. So her death became sensationalized, and the courtroom and the grounds were absolutely packed full of people. So they're like standing room only kind of thing. And I don't know if this would interest you or not, but Ronald and Jack were outside of the courthouse signing autographs.
That doesn't look good.
It sure doesn't.
Also,
I'm telling you, it's a tough one.
First, okay, look. At this point, neither of them have been charged with... Look.
Correct.
Okay.
Neither of them have been charged up to this point.
Okay. Bear with me, because what I'm about to say is going to sound a little fucked up.
Okay.
Now, if you are a true crime fan and you have that, like, morbid want for creepy shit, and, like, I have this thing that Ted Bundy signed, and it has his signature. That, as having that as, like, some sort of memorabilia in your collection of weird shit, I can see that and understand that. But these 2 men thus far have not been charged with anything. They're just kind of involved in a weird circumstantial death.
Correct.
And they haven't even determined her death as a homicide yet.
Correct.
So I feel like...
Gross?
Yeah. Well, I feel like the people that were standing outside the courtroom and asking these fuckers for... I mean, I don't mean to call them fuckers, but I'm assuming that they are. But I feel it very...
It's a little premature.
Yeah, and disgusting that they're asking these men for autographs who may or may not have killed this woman.
This woman, as in one of them
who was married to one of them.
Who was married to one of them.
I thought I'd help you out.
Well, I was going to say one of their wives, but I'm like, does that make sense?
It does.
She's not plural.
That's why I thought I would help you.
Okay, thank you. I need all kinds of help. I saw you were
struggling because you had like, you said it and then you went blank and you're like, you turned your head. I was like, huh.
What isn't a word?
Yeah, I find that strange and
happily signing autographs. There's a picture of them signing autographs too.
You're gonna show me, are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sure am.
Okay.
So, just thought I'd throw that in there.
That's weird.
Yeah, that's only to get weirder. A ton of shit came out at the inquest, and that's where it gets even weirder.
Yeah.
One thing that came out was the possibility, and this is one theory, the possibility that Christina was actually suicidal. She had apparently had conversations with Ronald, the friend.
So not her husband.
Not her husband.
Okay.
About how she doesn't know if Jack really loved her or not. On Easter, earlier in the year, so just a couple months back, she left a suicide note addressed to Ronald. In it, she said that she had tried to poison herself because she didn't know if Jack would propose to her or not. Because, back then they did whirlwind engagements. Like, we're engaged, we're getting married next month type of deal. Yeah. And that's kind of what this was. Well, kind of, because they just eloped. Because they didn't get a blessing. So...
Which, I mean, that's already a hard enough feat to go past, especially if you're in love with someone and your family doesn't approve. Whether that person is a good person or not, that's always something hard to deal with.
Right.
So
one quote from the letter said, "This will be the best way out, as I cannot bear to see another girl have him."
That's...
Yeah. So Jax had said that he remembered her being sick on Easter, but didn't know anything about the suicide note and was not aware that she was suicidal at all. He's totally, sidelined by this. So the second note came at the end of April, again addressed to Ronald. So Ronald again. In this one, she suggests that she would kill both herself and Jack. And a quote from this says, "When you love someone, you really love him. And I know there's no one for me but Jack. And if I cannot have him, I do not intend anyone else to. I waited, as you might say, in the hope that Jack would ask me to marry him, but I now realize I am just a passing fancy." So...
Question. So these were verified, written by her?
I'ma get to it.
Okay.
So the third and last note was written on May 19th, which is just the day before she died. So this is supposedly written at the cottage. This one was addressed to a Mrs. Thomas, who owned the building that Jack and Christina stayed in for a while in Mimico.
Okay.
Even though it was addressed to Mrs. Thomas, she wanted Ronald to mail it for her. So here we are with Ronald again. In it, she's quoted as saying, "Ronnie is in the boat outside somewhere. By the time he gets back, everything will all be over with. He must have been afraid something would happen because he stayed an extra day to make sure we got back to Toronto with him."
Question. So if it took an hour to burn this house down, how did this note survive?
I'm going to get to that as well.
Okay.
Yep.
Just know that I have a lot of questions and problems.
Oh, I know. I know. So those are all of the notes. First of all, I hope nobody ever feels this way, because there is always somebody else out there. There are how many billions of people on this planet? You do not need to throw everything away for one dude. It's not worth it.
It ain't worth it, ladies.
It is not worth it.
They ain't worth it.
No. Handwriting experts confirmed that it was, in fact, Christine's handwriting and her signature on all three letters.
Yeah, but handwriting expert
especially back in the 40s.
Yeah. Like, you can compare it, but it's not exact science.
Right.
that's one of the ways that they determine. This is off topic, but I saw a video on like fakes in that pawn wars show. You know?
Pawn
like,
Stars.
Yeah, whatever. I don't know. I don't watch it.
I don't either.
But it was like, 5 different times that someone brought in an item that they thought was genuine, but it was actually fake. One of the guys brought in a football that was supposed to have like a bunch of like 60s football players' names.
Mm-hmm.
And they had an expert come in and compare the signatures to genuine signatures of these football players.
Right.
And he was like, I mean, these are done really well, but this is like done by someone who has really learned to imitate the signature. So it's not real.
Right.
Kind of thing. And I know that has next to nothing to do with this, but I literally just watched that recently.
Yeah.
Because it was on Facebook.
Right.
So, I mean, it makes sense. Like, yes, you can compare it to it, but if this is someone that has spent a lot of time with her, then they would probably, with practice, be able to forge her signature
an unnatural amount of time I've seen in a lot of sources is what the family said.
Okay. So, I mean, it wouldn't be hard to practice that to be able to forge her name and whatnot. So,
or is it that she was brainwashed into writing these?
Is that another theory?
I guess we're gonna get to it. So, handwriting experts again, they confirmed that it was Christina's handwriting and signature on the letters. Ronald kept all the letters. He kept them all and didn't tell Jack because he thought he was, quote unquote, saving his friend.
No.
Nope. So there was another timeline of events that was brought up by Ronald. And I don't remember if this was printed in a newspaper or what, and I'm not even sure. I'm thinking this was just one of those things that Ronald had said to the police, but then later retracted or something and ended up with his, 3,000 word fantastic thing.
Yeah.
So he said that when he came back to the cottage from sunbathing, he saw Jack with blood on his head and face, and Christina was there. He asked what happened, and all she did was stand there with tears in her eyes. Like, this is just like a setup for a bad movie.
This is fantastic.
Yeah. He carried Jack out of the cottage and went back in there for blankets for some reason. I don't know why the blankets. And he said that he saw Christina for the last time. It was never explained what she was doing at that point, but then he smelled coal oil in the living room and smelled smoke after a minute. After he got Jack to the hospital, he came back to the cottage that was on fire, and Christina was nowhere to be found. And of course, he couldn't find any weapon at all that possibly could have been used to hit Jack on the head like that. There was no weapons whatsoever in the house that could have been used.
And of course, he searched it while it was burning down, right? Okay.
And there was nothing in there that could have been used as a weapon.
So this is now story number 2.
Yes, but this was not the final one that he stuck with.
Okay, but we're on number 2. So number 3 will be coming?
No.
Okay.
No, just the 2. This one was, I think, like I said, I think was retracted, and then he ended up with got back to the
involved
cottage.
Himself even less.
Yes.
In the final edit.
Yes. Went back to the cottage, saw that, it was on fire, went in, couldn't find Christina, saw Jack there, dazed, with a head wound. He got him out. He did go back in for something else, but I'll tell you what those are later. And then took him to the hospital.
All right.
So, another theory that surfaced was that the men planned this for insurance money. Before Jack and Christina were even married, Jack took out life insurance policies on both himself and Christina for $5,000 each, Canadian currency obviously, that had a double indemnity clause in it that said that the beneficiary would get double what the policy was worth in the event of an accidental death. In today's money, so it'd be $10,000 payout to the beneficiary.
Right.
Today's money would be about $200,000 US.
What about Canadian
Good
dollars?
chunk of change. I don't know.
I don't know. I didn't bother.
No, nothing told me in all the sources that I saw. It was always using the US dollars. So
Obnoxious.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Ronald
Just sorry, Canada.
just happened to be the beneficiary on both policies.
Why?
I don't know. I was telling Ryan about this, and I'm like, okay. In no way, shape, or form would I put my best friend on our insurance policies.
For both of you.
For both of us.
That's weird.
She's not going on mine, and she's not going on yours.
No.
I mean, I love her.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Like, I used to be on yours, but then when you got married, it became your husband.
Correct.
And I understand.
Correct.
I wasn't hurt by that. A little. It's fine.
It's all fine. But like, and if he even suggested putting his friend on one of our insurance policies, I'd be like, so you're planning on killing me?
Obviously, that's clearly what that means.
I mean, come on.
So you keep an eye on him if he ever suggests.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, no.
Mm-mm.
No.
Then,
wait, so was it confirmed that they had life insurance policies on them?
Yeah. And he took them out before they were even married. That's what I'm saying. It was earlier in that year.
So Jack took them out. Jack is the one that created these and put Ronald as the beneficiary.
Mm-hmm. It's gross, right? Just wait.
Okay.
Ronald took out a policy on his cottage earlier in that same year, around the same time, for $5,000 as well. And Jack just so happened to be the beneficiary for that policy. There's nothing weird about any of this.
Okay.
Now, here's the thing. Ronald is an Italian immigrant. It's not known whether he has more family in Canada or not. So maybe that would make sense. You make your best friend that you've made over there your beneficiary for your policy.
See, now that I don't find as strange.
Correct.
If you don't have any family over there, it might be easier to make someone who's already a Canadian citizen as your beneficiary.
Good friends.
However,
and if that
you can still make your family your beneficiary, even if they are in another country.
You're correct.
But who am I?
I'm not an insurance guy.
I'm not an insurance guy. I don't fucking get it.
But if that was the only thing in this by itself, okay.
Yeah,
that's not strange.
Not as weird.
But when you put it all together,
it's just like no.
Something doesn't match up.
One of these things is not like the other.
Correct.
No, that's weird. I don't like any of this.
Jack had also given Ronald his war gratuity, which is a payment to Canadian servicemen when they're discharged. So he gave that to Ronald. He didn't keep it. Gave it to Ronald. And
was he just in the military or did he serve in a war?
I don't know. I think he was just in the military. He may have served in one of the wars. I don't know. Doesn't matter. He was in the military. So he gave Ronald his war gratuity. And then he also took his family out of his will without any explanation. Yeah. Now, I'm looking at that as like, wow, you're in your 20s and you have a will. But then again, it's way back then. And I mean, I think everybody should have a will.
Everyone should. I mean, I certainly don't. Mine's going to be, when I die, you get everything. It's mine. My wants are pretty straightforward. I don't really need to put that in writing.
I mean, but still, he has a will and he without any explanation, took his family out of his will.
Now, again, that by itself doesn't seem that weird. Maybe he had a really bad falling out with his family.
And we don't know anything about his family.
No.
I know nothing about his family, as a matter of fact. So, now, if you remember right, Ronald tried insurance out for a time and failed at it. So he probably knew all about life insurance policies and the policy on his cottage. So here we are with all these insurance policies.
Okay. I just got new theories in my head. Keep going. We'll discuss it at the end.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, so that's another theory that they planned all this out to get the insurance money on all the things.
Very possible.
So conveniently, her wedding ring was never recovered, and she wore it the whole time that she was on their honeymoon with their best friend.
Of course.
There was some debate about it, though. First, how much was it worth? It was debated that it was worth anywhere from $1,000 to $13,000. I mean, that's a big gap.
What?
I'm not sure.
Wait, is that today money or
No,
was that
was
then money?
Then money. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. And it was also questioned as to where it came from. It was thought that possibly it was purchased by Ronald. Again, here we are. Questioning everything.
Oh.
Or
again, if they were all in a relationship, that's fine.
Correct.
But it's the fact that she died that makes it weird. Okay.
Or Jack borrowed it from a married friend.
You don't do that.
Hey, buddy, can I borrow your wife's wedding ring just for a time? Because we plan on killing mine.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, like, why spend $13,000 of your own money for someone who you plan on killing for insurance money?
I mean,
hey, man. Okay.
Yeah. So nothing ever came from that. I just thought it was interesting to mention. But it was never found. Never recovered. It wasn't on her. Nobody found it. Allegedly.
Okay, yeah.
So part of Jack's testimony to the police when he was questioned is that he and Ronald had been in an intimate relationship for a while. At the inquiry, he later recanted that, saying that he was coerced into saying that because the police wanted to build that story in their report. Now, CJ...
That was gonna be my theory.
Oh, yeah, that was my theory from the beginning.
Yeah.
And again, that's okay. But when it ends in a death...
But when you and your boyfriend think, you know what's a great idea? I'll marry this woman. Let's take out a bunch of insurance policies. Let's kill her, and then you and I can run off with that money. That's not cool.
Correct.
You shouldn't do that.
No. So at the inquiry, like I said, he recanted that, saying he was coerced. So the attorney, I don't want to say prosecuting attorney because he wasn't, but basically the attorney that's like covering all of this, doing all of this, his last name was Hope, so that's how I'm referring to him. He did not believe the story was coerced, and he continued to hammer into Jack at the inquiry until Jack admitted again that they were in fact lovers. Also, I don't like that term.
I could have told you that.
Because it's gross for me.
Lovers.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. When somebody's, described as somebody's lover, it just grosses me out. Like, I don't want somebody to refer to Ryan as my lover. No, that's gross. He's my husband. Anyway.
So, Jack and Ronald are BFs.
Boyfriends, not best friends.
Or both.
Or both, because you can be both. But in this case, I don't know, it's sketchy.
No, they're boyfriends.
Ronald also admitted at some point, and I don't know what point that he admitted this, but he did admit this at some point. He admitted that they were in a relationship, but said it was just experimental and that nothing happened between them since 1939. So this seems like...
You're keeping track of the last time that you guys experimented?
Well, and you know what? I mean, it could have stuck in your head. I mean, that's fine. However, this seems like Jack's all like, yes, I loved him. And we were in a relationship, and Ronald's like, it was just experimental.
We were just fucking.
It wasn't anything like serious.
No.
He might have thought it was serious, but it was just, no, not for me.
You two aren't even on the same page, okay?
No.
Oh,
buddy. I know. So, yeah, it's a whole thing between those two. Now, Christina's sister, Helen, and this is how I know that she had at least one sister named Helen, because she gave testimony. Mm-hmm. She gives a suggestion as to what possibly happened as well. She thinks that Christina was actually being drugged before the wedding, during, the whole nine. She said that she wasn't herself in the months leading up to the wedding and didn't know if it was some kind of, actual drug or if she was being medicated by them. It was also said, and I think this was by Ronald, that it may have been by Jack too. Either way, one of them said that Christina was acting weird during the honeymoon as well. She would have crying fits at one point, and then she would seem dazed at other times. So it's like, were they trying to say that she was self-medicating? Because Helen seems to think that they were drugging her this whole time. So with them saying that, I mean, I don't know. So, but Helen thinks that she was drugged right before the wedding and, quote, woke up married and then just accepted it. So she's like, she thinks she was drugged during the actual ceremony and just woke up and was like, oh, I'm married. Oh, okay, I guess.
Shrug.
Right.
Yeah.
So
if I woke up and I was married to somebody,
like a Vegas thing,
yeah, I would be losing my fucking mind. I'd be like, first of all, where's the spouse? Who is it?
Well, and then Helen also said that Christina was scared of Jack and Ronald both. And then an owner of a house that Jack and Ronald had stayed in for a while said that Christina had told her that she thought something bad would happen if Ronald went on their honeymoon with them. So apparently Christina's confiding in all kinds of people about stuff. Like the owner of Jack and Ronald's house.
But she kept...
Well, that I can't really speak on. It's just the fact of you're telling this random woman, man, if Ronald goes on our honeymoon with us, something bad's going to happen. That's weird to me.
That's weird.
That's weird to me. I don't know. Again, just something I thought I would note. So, I would also like to note, lots of little side notes in here, that a first responder that was at the fire testified that he did not see Christina's body when he was helping put out the fire. So, remember, the cottage and where it's basically like this little island that it's on. And I looked at the map where this was, and there's like little rivers and it's like surrounded by this lake. So, I mean, there's water everywhere. But the thing is, they were using that river and lake water to put the fire out. So they were running, basically getting buckets from the water, running back to the cottage to try to get the fire out. And this first responder is like, I didn't see any bodies.
Yeah.
And he was apparently grabbing water from very near where she was found at 10 p.m. that night. So she was only 150 feet from the cottage.
Because that was going to be one of my other questions, is like, if her body was there at the time of the fire, how did nobody see this woman lying in water?
Right.
So
now, going back
if that is true, where was she all this time?
I know. Nobody knows. But now, Ryan and what's his name from the BuzzFeed True Crime?
Yeah.
One of them made a really good point. He's like, now, if there's a fire and you're like, adrenaline's going and running and getting water and running, you're not exactly paying attention to a whole lot other than the fire.
No.
So, I get that. However,
at the same time, though, I think I'm weird. So I can't include myself in this. But I think that I would notice there's a lifeless body laying over here.
Face down.
That seems strange.
Well, and here's the thing. She's in floral pajamas. So she's in something that would stick out, I would imagine. It stuck out enough.
Is this with, like, is she around, like, sand and...
I don't know. It's just, she was in 9 inches of water. But the thing is, she stuck out enough at 10 p.m. when it's dark that a nearby boat owner or local was, tootling around and he finds her.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm having a hard time with that. Like, where the hell was she?
Well, also, in between the time of the fire to when she was found, what was going on in that time as far as locating her?
Nothing, apparently.
Was it like, he hasn't mentioned to us that there was a third person in this house?
I don't know.
Or was it just like she popped up and then Ronald was like,
oh yeah,
by the way, she was with us.
Right.
My friend's wife
that he just married. That's right. That's right. We were on their honeymoon.
We were on their honeymoon.
That's right.
That's a sentence.
That, you know what? It's all coming back to me. You're right.
It's all coming back.
Yeah. So.
Wow. Okay.
So there's just another little side note there. And I would also like to note that when Ronald went back to the cottage from sunbathing, saw the cottage was on fire, went in and he got Jack. Remember I said that he went back in for something else?
Yeah.
He went back in for those suicide notes. That's what he went back in for. Went in and got Jack and he's like, oh shit, you know what? You know what would not implicate me in this murder? Those suicide notes.
That I just happened to bring along.
On their honeymoon.
Yeah.
That's right. And that third suicide note that I was supposed to mail for her, and I just didn't. Silly me. I gotta go back in and get those. Not anything else. Specifically those 3 suicide notes. So, CP, that's what his name, CP Hope. I don't know why I didn't introduce him earlier when I mentioned him. He was the Crown Attorney. That's the term I was looking for.
I love that.
Isn't that amazing? Canada here with the amazing shit, too.
Canada is now going to be on our metal album.
Yeah. The Crown Attorney. So he was the one handling the inquest. And he had an interesting thing to say about Ronald. And this guy.
I'm sure a lot of people had a lot of interesting things to say about him.
This is an amazing quote, too.
Okay.
So he said he was, quote, a liar of the most blatant kind whose sinister figure permeates the whole of this tragedy, but whose purpose and design are shrouded in mystery.
Love that.
Isn't that amazing?
It's going to go on our album.
And it's so true, too.
It's so true.
It is, because this dude is fully shrouded in mystery.
First, this whole case is just one giant question mark.
Yeah.
With 0 answers.
None.
And
absolutely none.
The at least one person that holds the answers is this Ronald fucker.
Yeah.
and he's not telling anybody a peep.
Because, and I was thinking about this when I was researching this and writing all this up. I'm like, now listen. Did I maybe want to go with my best friend and her husband on their honeymoon to Greece? Yes, because I want to go to Greece. However, I would not have wanted to go on their honeymoon with them.
No. That seems like an intrusive thing.
Yes. Are we close? Absolutely.
Now, unless it's your boyfriend marrying somebody, I guess you would want to be with him.
I guess. But I'm like, still.
Yeah, no, that's...
So many questions.
That's weird.
So many questions. Now, the end of the inquiry saw an open verdict. The jury could not come to a decision. This is why this is still an unsolved case. They said,
Wait, a verdict... Which trial is this?
This is the inquiry still.
Oh, okay.
This is still the inquiry about
what manner of death this was.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where all of this came out.
Yeah.
So they couldn't come to a decision, open verdict. There was no other inquiries done. This was it. They're like, open verdict. Okay, I guess undecided. So they said, and this is a big quote. So they said, due to the fact that the post-mortem examination disclosed codeine in the stomach of the deceased, and due to the suspicious fact that she was found drowned, this jury is unable to decide on the evidence given whether or not foul means were employed in her death.
Okay.
So no evidence implicated Jack or Ronald, and neither of them were ever charged with a murder. Because they couldn't come to a decision. They couldn't say that it was murder. They couldn't say it was suicide. They couldn't say it was an accident. None of it.
That's wild.
I know. So 3 years later, Jack marries another woman and never mentions Christina or anything that happened at the cottage ever again. Like, as soon as that inquiry, it was like,
what happened to that next wife?
Hold on. It was, like Lizzie Borden. After the inquest, she never spoke of that again.
Yeah.
Jack was the same way. As soon as that inquest was done, inquiry was done, never spoke of it again. And he gets married 3 years later, and he starts family with her, has at least one kid, has a son named Richard. When Richard was 2 years old, Ronald gave him his Pekingese dog, who was named Ling, and moved to New York and was never heard from again.
Ronald moved away from Jack?
Sure did. Yeah, so he had this Pekingese, and when Richard was 2, he's like, here, have my Pekingese. I'm out. Gone. Never heard from again.
Maybe they broke up.
I don't know.
He was like, you know what, fine, I guess if you're going to have a kid with her.
But he waited until the kid was 2.
Here's my dog. Bye.
Yeah. And this was 1956 when this happened, when he moved. So, I mean, it was almost 10 years after the cottage burned down and Christina died. Yeah.
Wow.
So, I don't even know the new wife's name. Never mentioned, ever. But Jack and his new wife ended up separating in 1969.
Okay.
But they never actually divorced. They just separated. Richard, the son, and his wife Sharon, they were doing some familial research. They were very into doing all kinds of the background stuff. This was the early 90s is when they were doing this. Mm-hmm. They just happened across a newspaper article on microfilm at a library about this incident. They never confronted Jack about it. And then Jack ended up dying in 1998.
Oh, damn it.
Yep. And to kind of wrap it up, Richard describes his father, Jack, as someone who was fully 100% non-confrontational. And he did everything he could to stay completely out of any conflict. He thinks that Ronald brainwashed his father into doing everything that he did and does not believe that he had anything to do with Christina's death.
Well, I'm pointing a pen at Paige. You can't see the pen, but I'm pointing it. Okay. Now, that's a good theory. Here's where it's flawed. Now, the thing is, Ronald could have most definitely been the brains behind the operation.
Oh, I fully...
I
no
think
matter
he
what,
was
I
the
fully
one.
think... No matter which theory you want to go with, 100% I think Ronald was behind all of it.
I think so, too. I mean, he came over here, and maybe he was down...
Canada. Not Illinois.
Not the U.S. But he came over to a new country. He's in a new country. Maybe he's down on his luck. He finds this gentleman named Jack, And maybe they were in a relationship. He used that to manipulate him. But either way, Jack is still involved somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Because especially the shit with all the insurance.
The insurance is fishy. That's very fishy.
Very fishy.
So the whole mental illness, suicidal thing on Christina's part. Do I think that was the truth? Possibly. She possibly could have struggled with some kind of mental illness.
And who knows? It could have been maybe she wrote the first suicide note.
And
then Ronald did the other two.
Well, I think...
So going off that, I'm sorry. I have a lot of things to say about this. So the thing is, if the first story was true about how Ronald went in, burning house, Jack is unconscious kind of days with a head injury, I'm going to get him out and whatever. I'm going to grab that one suicide note that Christine wrote and grab some other papers as well. I'm going to write 2 more. To create this alibi. Or maybe he had already done that before. I doubt he went in the burning house a second time. Let's just talk about that.
I think I personally think they were all 3 already written. I don't think he just happened to scribble out a few because
I don't think he did it like after the fire. I think like it was done prior, but let me go back. Let me explain myself better. Okay. So I believe that maybe Christine had already written one. It's very possible. And that he was able to practice her handwriting and maybe write the other 2. And then just have these. Again, I don't think he went back in the house that was burning.
He did. He went back in the house to get those suicide notes. That's what I'm saying. He went in first, found Jack. Well, I gotta get my buddy out.
But that's his story.
He goes out, and then he went back in.
That's to his get story.
I fully think. Here's what I think. So, I think Christina may have been. She possibly could have been a little bit troubled, and possibly confided in Ronald about that. Mm-hmm. And Ronald's like, "Oh, here's a mind I can twist." And he manipulated her into thinking that she was suicidal and convinced her, you can write these letters to somebody. And I think he possibly could have manipulated her into writing these letters and then planted the seeds in her head of, well, if maybe Jack could go too, or, things like that. So I think that was a whole manipulation thing on Ronald's part, and Jack was just an unwilling participant.
That's very possible. It had to have been something along the lines of Ronald was definitely he was the puppet master. Mm-hmm. He saw he took advantage of this man who was very non-confrontational mm-hmm. and was very manipulative and was like, maybe you're going to do whatever I want you to do. Mm-hmm. And, you met this woman. She seems very vulnerable, and I think I can take advantage of her as well. Mm-hmm. It could have very well been that. So whatever the process was, I do believe Ronald was the brains behind their operation.
Yes.
For sure. But I just... Where was she?
I don't know.
Where was she?
I have no idea.
That's my biggest question.
I know.
I mean, yes... Who knows? There could have been some sort of crazy just accident where maybe she took some codeine, she was a little loopy. I don't know, maybe thought Jack was an intruder, hit him across the head, and then wandered off and then ended up drowning. Wandered off. That's just something that just came to the top of my head.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that could have happened, but I've taken codeine before and I was out. I didn't even get up.
Well, so then that's the other thing. So maybe going to Helen's theory that she was being drugged. So maybe Ronald had drugged her, mm-hmm. and snuck up on Jack knocked him across the head, which is possibly why Jack doesn't remember anything after 11 o'clock. And then
that just seems too convenient.
Well, it does. But then maybe when she had some codeine in her and maybe she was passed out, he took her out to the water somewhere secluded. Now, this is his cottage, so he knows the area. He took her out somewhere secluded, drowned her while she was possibly unconscious, kept her body there, and then when he came back to the cottage, and after all the hubbub of, the burning building or whatever, moved her to this 9 inches of water face down to make it look like she drowned there. It's a lot of work, however, but I don't know. I don't know. I do think
I don't know. I believe that. I think there's a simpler explanation to that.
I think that he was definitely behind the suicide notes.
Yeah.
I don't know that he would have written them. I don't think that so much as to just he manipulated her into thinking she needed to write them.
Yeah, I also 100% believe that he was behind the fire.
Oh,
at least
he was 100% behind the fire. Let's be real.
Yeah, I just again, my biggest problem is where was she for all those hours that day?
I know.
And then she just magically popped up. Did he drug her so much that she was passed out for hours and hours? He took her somewhere, just kept her there, and then later in her
stupor essentially
just left her in the... I don't know.
There's no idea.
There's a million questions in my head because it could well have been Ronald was the one that killed her in a sense. Maybe... I don't know. Or maybe she fell into water, not knowing where she was. I don't know. Where was she?
I know. This is why this was so crazy. And now you know why the jury is like, I don't know. With all of this evidence given to me, I have no idea. That's why it's still unsolved to this day.
And so did they know for a fact that drowning was cause of death?
Yeah.
There was water in her lungs and everything.
That was cause of death. Was drowning. They just happened to find codeine in her stomach. It's a lot of dead air.
No, because I'm thinking if this was today, then they could have tested the water in the lungs to see if it actually came from that body of water that she was in.
Well, it wasn't today.
That's bullshit. But I'm just saying.
And they probably can't test that now.
No, I know. But the thing is, he could have drowned her in the house.
Could have.
And then disposed of her body and then set the place on fire.
Yeah.
I went sunbathing and I came back and my house was on fire.
Right.
Fuck off.
Right.
I bet you're tan. Fuck off. Yeah, no.
And then also the fact that they were signing autographs at the inquiry. Maybe you don't want to do that.
I just don't think, regardless of what happened, Jack was a participant in some capacity, but I don't think that it was
I don't think it was a willing participant.
I don't think it was a completely unwilling.
You don't think it was a completely unwilling?
I don't think it was no, I don't think so. Because I'm sorry, but if you are outside of a courthouse of where they're deciding whether your dead wife was murdered or not, I just find that very strange that you were happily signing autographs outside that courthouse.
Well, here's the thing. The picture shows Ronald happily.
Oh.
And then you can't really tell on Jack. Here it is. Really quick. Ronald's the one that's smiling. Ronald is definitely enjoying himself.
He is.
And I'll post that. So y'all can see as well.
Strange.
And you tell me what you think.
Yeah, okay. I may have to take back what I just said. His expression definitely says some things to me. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's looking... It's a picture where he's signing a little booklet. And by the way, the girl that's looking directly at the camera, are those Oh, those are her lips. I thought she had her tongue stuck out. He's signing a little book, and he's looking down, but his expression says, okay, maybe he wasn't as willing as I thought.
That, yeah, I don't think
it's a almost exhausted expression. Does that make any sense? Do you see that? Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But he was still signing them.
But that also then goes back to essentially an abuse victim.
Yeah.
So
maybe he had like that battered spouse.
Yeah.
Syndrome? I'm sorry. I may or may not be speaking out of ignorance. Like battered woman syndrome, you know?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, I definitely understand what you're saying. But
maybe he was kind of like a battered spouse.
That's my thing. Because his son is like, he avoids confrontation like the literal plague. He said, that's why he said he doesn't believe that his father was a willing participant. He thinks that Ronald was the brains behind it all. And I have to agree with him there. I think Ronald absolutely, no matter what happened, was the brains behind it all.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at his face. Do you see this picture? Look at that face. Look at that fucking face.
He looks like a slimy fucker.
He does. But nobody ever knew what happened to him. Moved to New York. And that was it. That's all she wrote. On Mr. Ronald.
It was probably to the point where he realized that he could no longer take advantage of Jack the way he would want. And then was just like, all right, fine, I'm going to go find somebody else to fuck over.
And manipulate.
Okay, yeah, now that you showed me that picture of them signing autographs, I'm like, ooh, let me retract what I just said.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, like, if they were both, like, happily, like, yeah, sure, let me sign the autograph.
Right. Which Ronald definitely was.
Oh, yeah. But, I don't know, Jack seems like a very, like, okay, I guess we're doing this.
Yeah.
Kind of expression. That's wild.
And you hadn't heard of it, right?
No, I hadn't.
Yeah. Still unsolved.
What is this called again?
The 8-Day Bride. Because she was only a bride for 8 days. Total.
Wow.
The length of their honeymoon.
That's wild.
Mm-hmm. Yep. She was only 21. She wasn't going to be 22 until a few months later. So we want to hear your theories as well. So whether you agree with us, if you have a theory of your own, we would love to hear them. So let us know. Last time I started it out, you got mad at me. So I was going to segue into our socials, but you know.
And if you would like to keep in contact with us, you can follow us on Facebook at
2KWay.
And you can follow us on Instagram at
2KWay Podcast.
And we do have a YouTube channel.
2KWay Podcast.
Where you can see our pretty, pretty pig faces. And then we also have a Gmail if you would like to suggest something or simply say hello.
Or tell us what you think about this crazy-ass case.
Yes.
It is 2kwaypodcast@gmail.com.
And if you're Scottish and you want to send us the little poem from Birkenhair.
Still waiting on that.
Please.
Send that to us.
Absolutely.
And if you want a t-shirt or a sticker or a notepad, let us know on any of those platforms. We'll get you one. We'll figure it out.
Yes. And I know I've been saying this for the last few episodes, but we will be launching our Patreon soon. And
like last 6 months.
Yes.
Rather.
But when we launch it, the first thing that we are going to have is we're going, I'll do a separate, not full episode explaining the Patreon, how it works, what you get, what your benefits are. And, we will immediately be having a bonus episode, our first bonus episode, and we're going to do some behind the scenes as well. So
we're excited about
that. We're really excited. So thank you, everybody, for joining us this week for the 8-Day Bride.
The 8-Day Bride.
Wow.
The unsolved case of the 8-Day Bride.
Yes. And we will see you all next week for my episode, which is also going to be a crazy one. So, we will see you all next time.
Bye.
Bye.